Okay, what's the odds of us converting this? And look at what we turned that foam into. A lot better than I expected. 14 pounds of aluminum. Let me show you how we did it. Hello everybody, I'm B from Our Dream, Our Purpose. Let's get to melting something, and we're gonna mold something. When I say mold something and melt something, we're gonna take this styrofoam mold, we're gonna pack it around with sand around it, and then we're going to pour aluminum inside the mold. If you've watched any of our videos, you've seen me do this before. I've had some luck, have not had some luck, but I think this is gonna work out great. Actually gonna pack it upside down, so I'm gonna leave this open. One of the problems I had in the past is the holes, and because when the aluminum hits this, it melts it. So you have different types of fumes come out, flames come out, it's tougher to pour. So if we have this wide open, then I think we can pour into it, and I think it'll be good. So we've got several problems with this. It's gonna be tough to do, but let's see how it goes. First thing we'll wanna do is actually cast it in the sand, pack the sand around it. So let's start with that. All right, back. Got a box here we can put it in. It's pretty close to the same size. I will have room at the bottom. I'll put sand in first, and I'll pack this in. My plan is to really pack the sand around it. I've got some new Petrobond sand here. It will help me put it around the head so we get a good, so we can see the indentations, the facial expressions, everything good. But the plan is to put this right about the height of the base so I can pour right into it and melt this, so I won't have separate holes. I'll just have one large hole. We'll go ahead and get started.
I'll talk about it a little bit later. There's a big difference between the new Petrobond sand and the used sand that I had. It's Petrobond sand as well, but after you use it, while you're using it, it actually burns the petroleum out of it, becomes just a sand, brittle. So you need to re-energize it, and I just haven't done it. It's been not a problem, but it really started to impact me here. So we'll work on that.
All right, we got that packed in there. As you can see, I've left a hole at the bottom of it. I've left this like that so I can actually pour into it, and it's gonna melt completely out. I might melt that a little bit ahead of time, but where I'm a little worried is, you see me pull some Petrobond sand out of the bags. That was new stuff, never used. It holds together real well, it's got the oil in there. The other stuff I used has been used, but after a while you have to add an oil into it to get it back to revitalize it, to bring it back to where it was. I did not do that. I've been successful reusing it, not a big deal, but as I'm packing it in there, it seems so fine. I don't think I had enough oil. I'm a little concerned, but we'll give it a shot. We'll try and see how it is, and I'll make sure I get some to refresh it afterwards so we're good to go. But let's try this. Now, here's where we run into the next issue. You saw the size of this, right? All right, so one of the things that I told you, a couple different issues we're gonna have with this. You see, these are the crucibles that I use. Obviously, with one forge, I use one crucible all the time. Now, the last video, if you look back some of my videos, we actually melted a lot of cans. I filled one of these up. I want to see how big of a block I could actually melt. This was it. If you want to see this made, size of it is over 6 pounds. Look back at one of the past videos, but I was able to pour this. That head is bigger than this, okay? So I'm actually gonna need, I think, 2 of these. How are we gonna do it? I got an idea. Let me show you. All right, here's the idea. So, as I was talking, we need to be able to fill both these up. One of these full made this block, over 6 pounds. So I knew if I was gonna fill 2 of them up, I needed over 12 pounds of aluminum to be able to do this. That's a lot of aluminum. So I didn't show you a lot, but I'll show you what I did. I have, and if you've seen any of my videos in the past, I had some power lines replaced. They left some of the overhead lines for me, so I was able to melt them down. And this is what it looks like, how they left them for me. Rolled up, big nice loop. Okay, then I had to take that and unroll it, cut it into pieces this big. Now I tried a few different things. I tried some real long ones. rolled them up. You'll see some of these. These are some of the early ones I did. So I left them long and then rolled them up, bent them over, things like that. I also individually took them apart, all of the strands apart, rolled some up this way, did some of the smaller ones. Now that was intentional. The reason I want to do some of the smaller ones, those will go in first. Once I get a nice hot melting aluminum in here, then I can feed some of the longer ones in through the top and just push it down through the system and allow it to melt right then and there as is. That's why I did some of these longer ones to see how those go. And these here, the look nice and smooth and organized, those are at the very end. So you try a few different things you learn from it. Understand this is not straight aluminum. Because this was, to be able to hold its structure, aluminum's a lot flimsier, they actually have one rod through here that's metal. So how I had to tear these apart was I would literally go through here and I'm digging for that one metal one. And I can see it. So I get it like that and I twist it. The reason I'm twisting is these wires are all twisted together. So by me twisting it, it's undoing the metal one. Now you also see this came undone. That happens sometimes. And what I'm doing, once I get down 6-8 inches, I'm actually just rolling it back up. And I'll show you why, because I'm gonna keep this together. Put my hand in there and then I'm just turning it. Again, there might be other ways, just this worked the best for me. Pull it out. This is the metal, I won't melt. This is the aluminum. Now you see what all I have there. I cut these the right length, what I wanted. Easy to work with, just bending them around. And I can just feed it through the top. So we'll start melting these, get some nice hot aluminum, melted aluminum in there, then we'll start feeding the other ones in to get the right, but I've got over 13, almost 14 pounds of aluminum here. So there will be a little bit of it that slag that we'll take out, but should be able to melt it, should make enough. Now, how do we melt both of these at the same time? Let me show you. All right, this is what we're gonna do. So you guys have seen me use this forge for some time now. Picked up a second one off Facebook Marketplace. Actually, my wife found this for me. So I've had it for a little while, but I haven't used it yet. So we might give it a shot. Again, as I mentioned, I'll put the crucibles in here. I've got the smaller aluminum inside there. We'll get those started and then we'll start melting them. And really, you're gonna see me melting. I'm not gonna do a lot of talking during the melt, but the pour is something that I'll set up. Make sure we be careful. I might not talk much with that. The plan is to get both of these going, get these hot. I'll clean them all off. When they're ready, I'll pull them both out so they'll be sitting here, and then I'll actually start pouring the one in. When it's done, go to the second one. I think it'll take most of the second one. If it takes all of it, it takes all of it. If it doesn't, I'll have one set aside where I can pour it in and make a little block out of it. But let's go ahead and get these lit and let's see how it does.
Managing two forges at the same time is not something I'd ever did before, so this was something I definitely focused on and kept an eye on it and just continued to load it. The aluminum itself was very clean and melted very well, so I just kept feeding into them, keeping an eye on if there's any slag built up. The one thing I've learned is as long as you can keep the slag down, clean it out, the aluminum, when you put it in there, it's actually melting very quickly. So I just continue to do that, melt this. I was trying to melt it at the same rate so it'd be both be full at the same time, and then we could actually do the pour. So just continue enjoying this, and we'll get to the pour.
Now, you see me feeding this in. Pretty consistent. It's actually melting it's a very clean aluminum, so it's melting very easily. This is 3/4 of the way full, so we're almost there. I'll put some more in, then we'll clean the slag off the top, but it's going good. This one's melting really quick. This one's a little slower, but it's up there too. So go ahead and feed some more, and then we'll clean slag off the top. It's looking good. We'll put a little more in that one, and then then we'll turn them back on, let it heat up while I'm setting up the front.
When I pulled these out, I actually set them up very close to each other, and the intention was when I go to grab them and pour them, I don't have that much time in between the first pour and the second pour to make sure they bond together. What I found as I was pouring it, it stayed warm for a long period of time. This was very hot, so I actually had plenty of time that I could have pulled the first one out and then taken the second one out and poured while the first one was still in there. So not a problem.
You see me let this cool for a little bit. It literally was about 15-20 minutes. There's a lot of aluminum in there, so I want to make sure it was cool. It's still warm. You can see the sand is still melting away some of the oil in it. But what I'm going to try to do now is scoop the sand out, put them in some bins here, get it to the point to where we can pull the head out, get it into water, let it cool, then I'll clean it up a little bit later. You can see it burns a lot of the oil away from the sand. I'm going to redo this sand. I've never done it before. If anybody has suggestions for what type of oil they use to mix in with the sand, please leave them in the comments. Helps me, again, I'm learning, as you guys always know. So leave some comments, let me know what you use, and I'll give it a shot. Thank you. Dug a little bit out, but gave it a little bit more time because it's hot still. When I say it's hot, let me show you this little bit of water in my spoon. So at the bottom of the neck, I put a spoonful of water on it. You hear it sizzling. And now you don't? Well, almost. You don't, because it melted all of that away. So still pretty hot. I'm gonna dig a little bit of the sand out. I think it's hard enough. Now we'll dig a little sand out and see how it goes.
Just trying to clean some of the sand off the head itself. Don't want to take all of it into the water. So that's really all I was doing here, just trying to clean some of the sand off, leave it in the box. So this did not want to stay in the vise itself. I didn't want to crank it down too tight and bend the aluminum, but unfortunately, because I didn't tighten it enough, as I was grinding it, at one point it actually falls out of the vise onto the floor. Well, partially my foot, partially the floor, but cleaned as much as I could, and then let the wife clean it up.
All right, not quite finished with them, but finished for this video. We did our pour again. You've seen me do a few, if you've watched any videos, you've seen me do a few of the styrofoam. I've been working on trying to improve them. This one went a lot better than I had expected. I still want to clean up. There's still some little creases in here that it had made. I believe it's when it melts, it's pushing into the sand. That's from the sand. So I'll actually clean that up to get this a nice clean head. It did not fill all the way. I measured this. This is just over 14 pounds. So more than what I expected, a pound or two more than I expected. It filled the entire thing except for a little bit of the neck, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. So again, we'll continue pouring. Any foam items that we can find, we'll try those as well as other things. But if you have any out there, you have any ideas, let us know. And again, I mentioned earlier, the sand itself, I need to re-energize it, put a little oil in it. Any suggestions what type of oil you guys use when you do it? But again, I like the way I cleaned it up some. I worried about it continuing to fall, didn't want to damage it. So I'll find a different way to clamp it down and then clean all these up. But glad we could show you, glad you followed along. It's our dream, our purpose. Like, subscribe, trying to build those subscriptions up so it doesn't cost anything. Subscribe, and we'll keep putting content out. All right, thank you.